Speaker, my question is to the Minister of Energy. Today, the committee investigating the gas plant scandal was cancelled. The Premier is refusing to be called as a witness to respond to the Auditor General's report. And as consistently reported by the CP this week, the Premier is holding off-site press conferences during question period so journalists can't cover both. That pattern of behaviour reflects something very seriously wrong with her leadership. It shows she is hiding something. She'd make Rosemary Woods, President Nixon's secretary, blush by her behaviour. Will the minister explain why the Premier continues to put obstacles in our place? Why she told the House and committee that the cancellation would only be $33 to $40 million when she knew over 2 years ago it would be well over $700 million.
Thank you. Minister of Energy.
Mr. Speaker, although I'd like the opportunity to answer that question, I'm referring it to the Government House.
Oh, very good.
The convention is simply move it to another minister, and that's all. Government House Leader.
Mr. Speaker, the member is simply wrong. The Premier has not refused to appear in front of committee. She's indicated to the committee that her office will work with the committee to find a date in the coming weeks, which, Mr. Speaker, I would remind that when the Leader of the Opposition was called in front of the committee, it took 3 tries before he went in front of the committee. I would also point out, Mr. Speaker, in terms of if they want to talk about timing, why will they not allow their candidates to come before the committee and to talk about the spending analysis that was done by the Conservative Party before it made the very aggressive promise in the last election to cancel these plants, to talk about the type of work that was done by the Conservative Party and to bring their costs into the table, Mr. Speaker. We've called them over and over again, and they are being blocked by the opposition. Will the member commit today that she will allow the candidates to come forward?
Supplementary.
Yeah, I'm going to go back to the Energy Minister. I do notice he has a pattern of only answering the last question I have, so I have no opportunity for rebuttal. And I'd really like to go back to him. You have been withholding information. Your Premier is hiding from questioning, and you are denying debates in this House. They are not tactics of an honest broker, Minister. The Premier would not get away with not telling the truth if it were not for the...
No, that's not acceptable. Withdraw.
Withdrawn, Speaker, but we wouldn't be in this position.
Simply a quick withdrawal, and then you proceed.
Withdrawn, Speaker. So let's review the facts. In the last 2 weeks, the Deputy Minister of Energy and the head of the OPA told us in the Justice Committee that the government
Minister of the Environment, come to order.
The Oakville plant exceeded the $40 million the Premier cited repeatedly for over 2 years.
Question.
She continued to use that number in the House. Now she refuses to come before us under oath. Will the Minister tell me what the Premier is hiding what is she afraid of?
Thank you. Government House Leader.
The member is simply wrong. The Premier has indicated that she will go before the committee again, and they were working out a schedule, just as the Leader of the Opposition did with the 3 tries it took for us to get him before it. But you know what, Mr. Speaker? I think we understand where the member's coming from. I'd like to quote from a press scrum that she had just this morning when a reporter said to the member who's asking the question, he said, you've got an AG report on both plants. You've had former Leader McGuinty twice. We've had Premier Wynne there once. We've had Colin Anderson at least twice, maybe 3 times. I mean, at what point are you going to wrap this up? And the member who just asked the question said, well, when we get the answers that we want. Mr. Speaker, we have been forthcoming. We have brought forward tens of thousands, hundreds of thousands of documents. The Premier has stood in the House day after day and answered the questions. I can't help it if the truth doesn't fit her reality, Mr. Speaker, but the simple fact is that we have cooperated in the Premier.
Supplementary.
So maybe third time's a charm. Back to the Energy Minister because I won't have an opportunity for a rebuttal. But let's be perfectly clear. The reality of the facts are this. Your government wasted $1 billion. Your leader told us it only cost $40 billion. And then yesterday you had the gall to stand in this House and deny a dying woman the cancer drugs she needs because you're too busy wasting money, and that is not what the priorities of your government are. And if this government's priorities weren't all wrong before, I don't know, Speaker, how much more they could go wrong. So no wonder the Premier wants the press gallery off-site during question period. No wonder...
Order. She has a right to put the question. Continue, please.
No wonder the Premier wants the press gallery off-site during question period. No wonder she won't appear under oath, and no wonder she cancelled the gas plant investigation for today. Will the government House Leader or the Minister of Energy stand in this place and commit to the people of Ontario that the Premier will testify?
Thank you. Seated, please. Seated, please. Thank you. Government House Leader.
That's a new law.
April 16th, Mr. Speaker, 4 opposition candidates invited to testify at the Justice Committee, including PC candidate Jeff Janishek and Zoran Churchin. They all declined. April 30th, the same day the Premier of this province appeared, the Leader of the Opposition is asked to testify. He declines. Backup witnesses Janishek and Churchin also decline. We then invite PC candidate Marianne de Monte Whalen. She accepts and is scheduled to testify, then mysteriously calls back a few hours later to cancel. May 2nd, Janishek, Churchin, and de Monte Whalen are called to testify. Janishek tells the clerk to stop calling, and the other 2 do not respond. May 7th, the Leader of the Opposition is once again invited to testify. He declines, even though he had written a letter to the committee saying that he would try to work for that date. Since he refuses, the Liberals call on Janishek, Churchin, de Monte Whalen, and the member from Halton, but none of them agree to testify. May 23rd, Janishek, Churchin, and de Monte
Thank you.
all refuse to testify.
That's it.